China is using a cap and trade system that puts a cap on total emissions and allows trading under it. So many of the provinces in Canada are involved in the trading idea. And the idea is that companies who can more inexpensively reduce their emissions are able to sell their credits on an open market, and they'll be purchased by companies whose costs are higher. So it's a cost-effective way to reduce emissions. It's in effect a carbon tax or a carbon price.
So then, since China started this trading system, what's been your observation about how it's going and what's being learned in this process?
It's going well, I think. We need a little more certainty on the reporting by individual provinces and then by the individual coal-fired power plants and other industrial emissions. So I think the key challenge for China, both in its domestic carbon cap and trade system and then in its overall emissions, is to make sure that its reporting and verification are accurate. Those are critical to a properly functioning market.
And will certainly be important to China's goal of being carbon neutral by the year 2060. So from people that you've spoken to and in your own opinion, is it realistic, and what's going to be needed to make it a reality in that time frame?
Well, it's really important that China took the 2060 net zero goal, but China needs to reduce their emissions more quickly than that. Right now, China's Paris pledge is not peaking its emissions till 2030. Most people believe China could, in fact, peak emissions within the next few years. It's notable that China is building 1% of total capacity of wind, adding to it per year. So wind is growing very fast. On the other hand, China last year built 3 times as much coal as the rest of the world combined. So China has to stop building new coal, and they have to build more renewable energy if they're going to peak their emissions by 2025. It's important to note China is still almost 30% of global emissions. If China can't peak its emissions, global emissions cannot peak.
Now, we do know that the power sector is China's biggest emitting industry. What efforts are being made there to really address their environmental footprint?
So the good news is China is investing a lot of money in renewable energy, looking at carbon capture and storage technology to take CO2 from coal-fired plants. China is importing more natural gas, which has about half the emissions of coal. So China is doing a lot of the right things. They're just not doing it fast enough. And in particular, they really need to stop building new coal and instead start to build new renewable, clean, and nuclear energy.
So then, what do you think are the hardest aspects to tackle in making this shift to reduce carbon emissions and really have a green economy?
So we've talked about the power sector, the electric power sector. China has more to do there, and that does include the use of natural gas, including importing gas from the United States that produces a lot of very cheap natural gas. They also have important nuclear programs that they need to execute. But China has the opportunity to lead the world in electric vehicle emissions reductions as well. They have subsidized electric vehicles far more than any other nation on earth. And in fact, the Biden administration is not very happy with that because China produces about 70% of the photovoltaic electric vehicle batteries right now. So China is rapidly attempting to decarbonize its transportation sector as well. If China can do more on the electricity side, it has the opportunity to really reduce emissions, I would say, within the next 2 or 3 years.
And as we know, that shift to a green economy, there's been a lot of talk about what that means for the economy, what it means for jobs. Talk about China's other efforts in going green and things like environmental protection and how that has the ability to really boost the economy.
Well, for one thing, the reduction in the use of coal as a percentage of its overall energy has improved air quality in China's major cities around the country, and that improves the lives of average Chinese citizens, and it increases worker productivity. the second thing that's important to note is wind, solar, and other forms of clean energy are now competitive on cost with coal in particular, especially when you take into account the externalities of CO2 from coal. So the truth is that clean energy is cheaper and cleaner now, but what we have to do is get rid of the old dirty energy that's still in the system.